Hi, this is Natalie Callback, and I'm here with Wes Mingus. I'm super excited to have Wes. This is super different this time because Wes is not a visual artist. He's actually a musician. He's a guitarist, and he's also, so he performs professionally. He's also a music writer, composer, and he's also a music teacher, and that's how I know him. Some of you guys know I have been learning the ukulele. That's not his favorite thing, maybe teaching me, but I got him today.
I see it
So,
back there in the corner collecting dust. So.
right. No, yes, it is actually. We
There.
need to do some lessons.
Uh-huh.
So Wes has played with some wonderful bands like the Wu-Tang Clan and the Revelations. And you also wrote music, or you write music for ESPN, for example, and other places. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing with
Doing now or just my background or
your
what?
background. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I went to music school way back in the '90s, and in Boston, went to Berklee College of Music. So I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. So from there, I moved to Philadelphia, and I got tapped into a whole kind of great new music scene that was happening there, and I was there for a while, and ended up in New York about 15 years ago. I've done a lot of touring and session work, recording. I had a band for a while, like you alluded to, called the Revelations, and we put out a few different albums with a couple of different singers. And oh, that's my timer to wake up my child. Uh, he'll wait. So yeah, there's that. From the band, that sort of turned into a lot of session work where we got a lot of work working with a lot of hip hop artists, and that's where the Wu-Tang Clan stuff kind of came into play. At first, it was a lot of sample replay stuff, like people would want to use a sample for a beat for a song they were working on, but they didn't want to pay to clear the sample, so they would pay us a fraction of what it would actually cost them to clear the sample to recreate the sample, note for note. So then they could sample that, so they weren't actually sampling the original source material, but they just had to give up the publishing on the back end. So that turned into a lot of different session work for a lot of different artists, and performed and recorded with Wu-Tang Clan and a lot of different other people, worked with the Roots, and a lot of different stuff. The freelance performing lifestyle is not a very steady one. It's has a lot of peaks and valleys. The peaks tend to justify the valley, but I had a kid coming, and so I didn't feel like having to explain that to a 2-week-old new life. So decided to kind of smooth out the valleys a little bit and start doing a lot more teaching. So I taught at a school of rock for a while. I taught at a guitar center. I do a lot of my own sort of in-home music lessons, stuff where I go to people's house. And I taught at the Gotham Music Academy, which is where our paths crossed. And so that is now a victim of the COVID crisis, and I am now collecting unemployment for that. And now I'm in my basement making music for myself. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
So all your live performances were nixed as far as you still had them, of course.
Yeah, immediately. My account got cleared overnight. Like I said, I got to the point where I wasn't really relying on that as a primary source of income, but that feeds my soul, and that's been tough. I think music is generally a very interactive art form, and that's the kind that I most enjoy. I don't really have a Wes Mingus product per se. I never really pursued my own thing because to me it's all about collaboration and communion with someone else and the conversation that happens and the sort of thing that happens when that's bigger than the two parts that come together, larger than the sum of its parts, and that was always the thing in music that really appealed to me the most, and so that's more or less gone for the time being. I am doing some remote lessons, but even with that, I've had to really adapt my whole way of teaching because um, there's a time lag. So when I play something, it has to get to you, and then when you play it, it has to get back to me. So it's kind of like, when you're watching the news and they have their correspondent in Tel Aviv, and you're like, Richard Engel, what's going on there? And he's like, hi, Dan. It's that kind of thing. And that immediately kills the interactive sort of together vibe that I'm usually going for when I teach or perform or anything. So it's become a much more didactic and less interactive experience, which has really made me have to sort of adjust the way I play. There's a lot less jamming and more of me just kind of showing things. And, I can kind of play something and be like, play along with me. And that works. But I have to kind of like mute the other person when that's going on because what's coming back is like an eighth note late and just like, whoa.
Oh my God, yeah.
Feels crazy. So, but it's good. People have time to learn something new. People don't necessarily have disposable income. That's another issue.
So, have you done music lessons like that before, like online?
I never did, and people always told me, "Oh, you should really do that," and it'll open up a whole new world. And now that I'm doing it, I kind of get it, and I'm teaching my little cousin in California, and that was not an option before. And I'm sort of working at sort of reestablishing the thing and rebranding it to something that can work like that, and just kind of learning how to roll with that and provide something that is mutually beneficial, that doesn't require so much just in the moment playing together. So that's where I'm at.
That's that I haven't thought about that because it's true when you do the music lessons, and we're very fortunate to have you. We are actually an adult group that has your lessons. We all play. Well, we try to play the ukulele, and then Wes shows us how it should be done, and then we learn. We're just not practicing, so we are bad students. But you play oftentimes the guitar, and then we jam along, and it's super fun. And it made me aware of that. That's not just me alone. And you have to kind of like listen. I think that's the main part of playing in a group is like you have to listen. Like you have those rules, but you have to listen to the other person and then make it one thing, right?
Exactly, and that's kind of the thing when I'm talking about where everybody sort of like hears each other and you sort of find your lane. And like a lot of times when we're doing that, like I'll kind of play one kind of thing, and the other people in the group are playing something else, and then it's sort of you start getting these layers and this dynamic thing that is kind of lost in the medium that we're in now.
So what are you what are you working right now besides teaching, that you're like, okay, this I can't go out, I can't, is there something that is different from what you're working on? Are you having a project?
Yeah, I just finished working on a song that I actually took from beginning to end, which is something I don't typically do by myself. I'll come up with a beat or some sort of groove, and I'll be like, that's cool, and then I'll come up with something else, and I'm like, well, when I work with somebody else, that'll be, a good thing to draw on and throw out. But obviously, that's not happening now. So I've been just kind of here in the basement and sort of working something up, and it's been a new experience for me, but it's something that I ended up really liking, that really sounds dynamic, and it has a lot of different things, but it's all me. So that's something that I've come up with it, and it just kind of started from a beat, and then I had an old scratchy vinyl copy of War of the Worlds, the old Orson Welles print from 1938. But there was something about that, and so much of the samples that I took from that just about how he's sort of coming into New York City and seeing the devastation that's happening, and I've just had this record, and it's been staring at me for months, and I was like, I think now's the time. So it's this super dark, sort of apocalyptic, really kind of cold and synthetic thing that has these moments that have a real sort of life breathing out of it. It has a sort of like drum machine-y kind of loopy thing, and then these kind of drones, and then it's got these parts where the guitar gets very live, and then it's sort of like the humanity breaking through all of that, and then it comes back and it shuts down, and then it breathes back in, and then there's a big ripping guitar solo in there, and so yeah, it's something I'm proud of. I think I'm gonna put it up on my SoundCloud that I've.
Yes.
Yeah, so I started SoundCloud about 5 years ago and never put anything up on there, but I think I'll finally put this one on there. So.
Where can we find you on SoundCloud?
Okay, Wes Ming, WESMING, I believe is my handle.
So so you write it and then you play the different parts.
Yeah, it was a whole process because so much of the stuff that I was taking from the record, it's War of the Worlds, which is all about Martians and stuff. So much of this, crazy stuff that was in there, I couldn't really use with the explicit mention of Martians. So I had to cull through that. And then I just had all these just random samples of different things about, bridges getting shut down and the population fleeing to more open areas and all these really apocalyptic things, and then I had to sort of rework the things into some sort of narrative arc that worked for me. So the samples are not in the same order that they appear in the recording. So that took a while. So yeah, there was sort of it started with just, I was doing something on a baritone guitar, which is basically like a regular guitar, but just tuned lower. And I started on that, and I had the drum machine going, and I had just the record just kind of playing by itself, and there was something happening there, so I tracked the drum machine, and then I did the baritone guitar, and then put some bass on, came up with a couple of different parts, and so I started to sort of organize it by part musically, and then I found a way for the spoken samples kind of work in different parts. So that took a while, but I've got plenty of time. I've also got a kid, so it's a lot of 25-minute sessions. But it was good, and I learned a lot about just recording and how to just on the technical end, how to do a lot of different things, because a lot of times the technology is the depth of art. It's like, you're like, you have this great idea, like, oh, inspiration has come from above, and you're like, all right, and you're like, sit down to record this thing, and you're like, okay, get this error message, and then this thing's flashing, and then, oh, the computer's overloaded, it doesn't want to do this thing, and you're like, oh, fuck this, I'm just...
Right.
It just kills everything. I'm sure there's an equivalent of that for every medium, where
right.
You have to set your things up to where your workflow is not going to kill your inspiration, and so you can keep that chasm between inspiration and intent pretty small. So I got there. It took a while, but I'm ready for the next one.
It feels like that this also is the challenge. Also can be a good chance of getting a little bit out of the rut and the typical things that you do, because you're just thinking about a different way of how to bring your stuff across, right?
Absolutely. It's the whole necessity is the mother of invention thing.
Nice one.
And so you have to do something you just don't, I'm still kind of stuck in my old 20th century ways of how I learned to play guitar, which was not on a computer. There's a human interaction happening at all times. But we're in different times, and we got to find a way to just even basic communication. I've probably talked to my friends more and communicated with them more through this. The little virtual happy hours and the check-ins, and there's friends of ours that I don't think I ever had this long a conversation with, because I would, they're good friends, but I would only see them like when we'd have a party or something. Then you have like a solid 10 minutes, and then you're talking to somebody else or whatever. But there's something where people are just really tuned in a different kind of way when you're talking to them online. There's no distraction and just normal, just periphery going on. You're just like
Right.
locked to the screen, which always kind of had a negative connotation before, but now is just kind of how we have to do it.
I think that is that it changes my perspective. I mean, I work a lot with technical stuff, online workshops, but it changes my view of some of the media where it was like, it's just you have to do it. But now, as you said, it becomes like something that you learn how to use it in a positive way, and I think that's good. Like before, it was just like, oh, social media. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
But now it's like, wow, this is a way to reach your peers or reach your friends and connect maybe in a different way. And hopefully we will also go back to the physical way again. But it can be something that we can carry on hopefully later on and have it as a good addition to what we're doing.
And I think that will be the sort of positive legacy of all this, is figuring out a way to do everyday things that don't necessarily involve us going all the different places and doing all the little errands that we used to do. There's a lot of things we can get done. There's a lot of people probably working at home. A lot of people not be paying for that office space. And
exactly. Yeah.
And, it just shows just how little we need to actually do the job we have.
So I know you have to go back to your child because we had the timer going on, but how is, so I'm assuming your wife is now working from home too, and that is probably a little bit changed from your usual life. How's that? I know you're sitting in the basement and she has probably her own domain.
Yeah.
So is that hard? Like, has it been hard in the beginning to kind of like adjust to that?
It is. We had a very well-timed sort of thing before, but it was always involving sort of me taking the kid to daycare and going to work, and she would come home from work and get the kid from daycare and come home, and it was a lot of just sort of passing, things. And now it's figuring out how to do this with everybody at home, instead of everybody being somewhere else, and so that required a whole new learning curve. But like even with her job, she's getting so much more done for not spending 2 hours commuting every day. But yeah, finding those little things, and sometimes she's just gotta take a Zoom call with the baby, and just kind of deal with that, and it's just what it is. And I have to figure out when I can schedule my lessons that are going to work with her and her job, and getting all those things to sort of intersect in a seamless kind of way, which we're getting there. But it's a whole new way. You think you're just like, everybody's home, we'll figure it out, but it's actually kind of harder with everybody home and not having any daycare or anybody to kind of fill in for that. But we're getting there.
Well, the good thing is you guys have you spend more time with each other, which I always think
we do.
Right?
Yeah, it's weird though, because the kid gets a lot more frustrated because he knows his mother's upstairs, and so if he doesn't see her for a long time, he knows she's up there, whereas before he knew she was somewhere else, or I was somewhere else, and so he's getting smart enough to figure that out.
That's what they do.
He's getting smarter.
Yeah, they get smarter. Dang it. That was really interesting, Wes. I can't wait to hear your piece. I hope you're going to upload it to SoundCloud.
I will do that today, and I'll send you the link.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and see you soon, hopefully, in person.
All right. Thank you.